Hello everybody. In this lesson I'm going to show you how to use the network commands from the command prompt. If you go to the search bar, type in CMD and then right click on the command prompt and run. You can get it from accessories as well and just run that. Now I've changed the font by right clicking on this bar, properties, and changed the font so it's easy for you to see. First of all, I'm going to cd / to the root and CLS for clearing the screen, make things clearer. Now, the first command we should know is the Ipconfig command because it's highly used. These commands are fundamental. You'll be using them almost daily throughout your course. And if you're an IT technician or security expert, you should really know these inside out. So Ipconfig, and it shows my IP configuration for my network adapters. There's the wireless one, 192.168.0.17 currently in default gateway, and I have another adapter here as well. Okay, so if I need to release that IP address from the DHCP server because it's been dynamically allocated by the DHCP server, I can put an ipconfig /release, so I forgot the slash, yep, and it's released it, so I no longer have an IP address. If I type in ipconfig /renew, then that will force or request an IP address from the DHCP server. It's called a DHCP discovery, and it will contact the first DHCP server it can and say, can I have an IP address? And a bit of handshaking goes on it and an IP address will be allocated. If an IP address isn't allocated, you can see mine has been allocated. If an IP address hasn't been allocated, then what you would need to do is try and renew it again and see what the problem is. If it comes back with a 169.254 address, then it's likely it hasn't contacted the DHCP servers for some reason. Maybe the server is down, maybe your network connection's not working, or something like that. So you would need to troubleshoot it. I'll explain that in more detail later on. Okay, so if I need to, so that was ipconfig /release redo. If I needed any more information on that command or any other command, /?, and it gives me all kinds of switches available for that command. So another useful command is the ping command, and ping is used to troubleshoot connections. So you're just, the term ping, we're sending 4 packets to a connection to see if we get a response back. And the first one we usually test is the actual network card again itself, and if I ping 127.0.0.1, it will just send 4 packets to the network card and back. In the old days, we used to have to make a loopback plug and plug it in for the transmit and receive to come back, but it does it internally now. So if I ping that, you can see it sent 4 packets and they're 32 bytes in size, took 1 millisecond, and there's a time to live for the packet of 128 milliseconds. That means it will drop it if it doesn't reach in that particular time. Otherwise, packets will still be whizzing around the network. So I could have also typed in loopback, hence the term loopback, because of that loopback plug I was explaining to you about, and it will do the same thing. Okay, so that's just testing if the network card's responding. If I need to ping another machine, I'm going to ping 192.168.0.17 and I'll see if I can get a response back. So to test if a PC is responding on the network or whether you're on the network, you can use ping for that. Now if I pinged one that wasn't on the network, I'll just put in 88, and it'll take a little while, but it'll come back and say destination host not unreachable, or request timed out, or something along those lines. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to ping, see if I can ping outside my network. I probably can't because the firewall will probably block it. Seems to be going somewhere. I'm not sure where this address comes from, but it might be Google. Okay, but it's went through. Okay, so another useful command. So that's ipconfig covered, and ping. Another useful command is trace route, or tracert as I used to call it, just to wind up an old colleague. And I can trace a path across the network. So I'm going to trace that address again. And each time it goes through a router or a DNS server or a device like that, it'll send back an echo response, and we can trace the path across the network. Now at the moment, I've only got one hop. It does it to a maximum of 30 hops. That means 30 devices before it deems it unreachable. But I'm going to try it with the Google address. So I can put in IP addresses or URLs or names, net bias names. Bias names, incidentally, are just PC names. So I'm going to try it with Google, and it's going through. It'll probably be firewalled somewhere along the lines, but that's my PC currently. Then it's going through, it's going out my network, and it's going to Virgin Media. And you can see it's starting to get firewalled after the third hop. So I'm just going to Control C there, cut out. See, it came back with the request timed out there. Okay. So that's the traceroute command, or tracer. And another useful command Microsoft came up with is pathping. And we could do the same thing. Pathping is almost a combination of ping and traceroute together. So pathping 192.168.0.17, useful command. And you can see it's traced through, it's only went through one hop, but if we did it for the Google one, I'll just give it a couple of seconds to respond, or I can Control C. I'll do it for Google. Pathping www.google.com, and we should get through a few more hops, and there we go. Okay, it's starting to come through now. Okay, probably just get as far as it did with traceroute and the firewalls kicking in, and you can see this asterisk shows you it's getting firewalled. So Control C, come out. So that's path ping, traceroute, ipconfig, and ping. There are other commands which are handy and useful. So for example, the ARP, which is the address resolution protocol, sorry about that. Useful switch for that is -A, and if I just put that in, you can see what connections have been listed in the routing table here. Okay, if you see anything suspicious, you might want to, where's that IP address coming from, sort of thing, or where's that URL coming from, and investigate where it's come from. So you might have taylorswift.com. So who's been looking at Taylor Swift videos or something along those lines? Okay, so that's the ARP command, and again, if you put in ARP /?, you can get a whole lot of switches available for the ARP command. Another useful command is the net command. So if I put in net, you can see there's a whole host of different submenus for the net command. I'm not going to go into any great detail with this command because later on you're going to see how you can create users, groups, all sorts of things using the net command. It's very, very powerful. I'll just see if the net view command is working. Sometimes it's been disabled by the technicians. Net view should show all the PCs listed on the network. Might not be working at the moment. Okay, it's taking too long, we'll just move on. Okay. Another useful command, which I'm not going to go into any great depth, is net shell. And the net shell command, if we type in help here, you can see there's a whole lot of things that we can actually look up and use with the net shell command. Net shell command is very, very powerful, and it's one of the things we can shut down the firewall. We can do all sorts of things with this particular command. If I just scroll up, and I'll give you a little example. If I go into scroll back down here, there's a particular interface. So if I go interface, and I'm now in the net shell interface, and if I do help again, and if I type in show, okay, so show alias, nope, I'm going to have to put a question mark in there. So I just put a question mark in there to get more specific help rather than rely on the whole full menu telling me what to do. So I'm going to type in IPv4, and I'm now in the net shell interface IPv4, and if I do question mark again, it will tell me what I can do here. So I can show now. So if I do show, and it can show interfaces or IP addresses. So show IP addresses, and then it shows me the IP addresses for that particular network adapters. So it's a very, very powerful command, one that takes skill to navigate around. As you can see, you have to keep checking what the commands are within that particular submenu. So I'm just going to exit that. Okay. Now there are other commands that are useful from the command prompt, which will be covered at another particular lesson on network commands. Probably one of your lecturers will take you through that. So hopefully you found this useful. I'm just going to exit and come out of there, and that concludes this video.